Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by entrepreneur, author, and investor Frank Gruber, and joined by entrepreneur, lawyer, and investor John Good Times Guidos. After each having successful startup exits, these two college friends cover a wide array of the latest trends and topics in tech, startups, investing, entertainment, and life. You'll notice they like to live life to the fullest with lots of adventure and believe in celebrating those important wins along the way. The podcast is produced with the help of Established, a strategic consultancy focused on corporate innovation, entrepreneurs, and the ecosystems that support and elevate them. Now it's time to be somewhat frank. Let's get to it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Somewhat Frank podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber, and I'm joined by my friend from a very long time here, Johnny Good Times Guidos. Thanks for joining me, Johnny.
Hi, Frank. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been a little while, hasn't it? Happy to be here as well. And just wanted to share that we're back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus. We did not mean to do that, but we've gotten real busy, and apparently we like to hibernate in the winter. And what are you gonna do about it? We're gonna try to make this more regular, and we've got a plan to do that. So it starts with doing, I guess, less, but doing it more often.
Wow, that's a nice formula for success. I'll have to incorporate that into my life. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I just took a drink. Sorry about that. Just had a drink of some of my favorite mushroom coffee.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to know, have you still been drinking that?
I have. I've been drinking it. I put it into my regular coffee, and it gives me focus on anything, and think on my toes, and it's really good. And speaking of that, it's gotten me to the point where I've come up with this new plan, which I just mentioned earlier, which was do less but more often. And but if that makes sense, it means that we're going to do less articles we're going to cover, but we're going to try to do it more often. So we've got our top 7 today, and our first one actually kicks off, funny enough, about mushrooms. And apparently there's an article I just read in the Guardian publication, and apparently mushrooms use up to 50 words to communicate amongst themselves. Pretty cool.
I find that pretty interesting. You and I are both on different ends of the spectrums with regard to mushrooms. You love them and incorporate them into your daily life. I'm not the biggest fan. That being said, the fact that they're communicating with each other, I think they're using, what was it, like electronic pulses or something like that?
Yeah. Pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah, I wonder what they're saying about us.
I know. Are they trying to kill us? Like, I actually thought about that, and I thought about the trees next. Like, are they literally trying to, they give us oxygen, mm-hmm. and then are they just literally doing that to get us nice and juicy for when we die and then decompose, and then they just eat us?
Oh yeah, was that your Instagram the other day that said something like that?
It started to really get my mind turning. Yeah, there's somebody posted something similar to that on Instagram the other day, and I was like, holy cow. It's all a setup.
Plants are actually farming humans so that we could be their fuel when we pass away and decompose. It's a cool concept.
All right. So those mushrooms, got to watch out for them. We don't know what they're plotting. But I'll continue in the meantime drinking them, and hopefully that helps me focus.
Well, as long as you're on their team. I think they're plotting against me, but you're a friend of them, so you should be okay.
That's true. Mushroom friend over here. All right. So speaking of that, at least it's not microplastics, right? I mean, I don't know if you saw the article recently. Again, it might have been in the Guardian. It was in a couple of different places. Apparently, I get all my news at the Guardian. I don't know why that is. They're also plotting against me. But either way, the microplastics are being found in human blood for the first time. So what that means is we're drinking things, I guess, and it's melting into our water system and foods and whatnot, and we're eating it and it's consuming it, and it's into our bodies now. We're plastic.
I think it's very scary. I think it has. I don't think scientists even know the impact that it has on our evolution or our DNA or where we're going as a species, but it is very concerning to me specifically. Everybody probably has their own opinions on it, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think plastic was invented in the early 1900s, and it's already a part of our blood, right, in our biology, which is it's scary and pretty disturbing.
No, it's frightening, very frightening. Unless that means that we're going to be more strong. I don't know. Like, what does that mean? Like,
yeah, I know. I
don't know.
The jury's out on that one. I err on the side of caution with this one. And,
well, it makes you wonder. There's a lot of products that are basically produced now, like meat products, and everyone's trying to recreate these things, and they're supposed to be healthy for you. You're wondering, what is any of that bad? Like, I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm wondering now, is that, are there plastics in there? Are we eating plastic? At some of these things, I have no idea. But so it makes you question it for sure. And obviously, we don't know the impacts yet. So hopefully we, if anyone out there is listening and does know, please let us know. You can just email us at somewhatfrank at est.us, and that's our email address, and we'll get that and we'll try to incorporate it into our next episode. All right.
Definitely.
So moving on here, there's a lot of buzz lately. Mr. Elon Musk is making moves. He's the last week or so, he's bought, $9 billion worth of share, $90 billion plus dollars worth of shares to become the majority owner of Twitter. And then he most recently, a week later, proposed to buy the company for $43 billion. And since that, there was even more movement. One of the other largest investors, Vanguard Group, decided to buy a little bit more of the company. And now they've got up to like 10 percent of the company. 10 million shares of the company. Sorry, $10 billion worth of the company. And anyway, there's been back and forth there. There's backlash all over from the board, but behind the scenes, and then also exploding on Twitter itself with all these conversations about what people want to do and what Twitter should do. And it's an interesting situation. Would you say, John?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, he's a maverick, right? He's a first mover and brings a lot of interesting things to the table from technology standpoint. I mean, the one thing we all can't argue is his success, right? He's been successful throughout his career. Right. Recently, he's been somewhat polarizing with some of his different views on things, which is a whole another conversation unto itself. But this isn't the first time that a billionaire has purchased a media company. So I think it's just a pretty fun conversation, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, it's not new. You're right. Like, I was thinking about, like, Jeff Bezos he purchased the Washington Post, but the difference I think with this one is that, I don't think Jeff's sitting there writing news, right? He's not doing that. Whereas with this platform, which is still in the media space, Elon could be tweeting about it, or tweeting on it, right? Now that's interesting too. Like, I don't know what the rules are in the SEC about like owning a company and then tweeting about or on about the company. So you'd have to be careful there, I think. But there's a lot of question about some of the things that he stands for. I mean, obviously freedom of speech is important, and that's what he stands for. But the question is how much moderation, if any, is needed. And you've seen over the years, we've seen a lot of bad things happen on Twitter with trolling and people doing things and saying things on there that are racist or just a lot of things going on there. And so I think freedom of speech is important, obviously, but there's concerns about how he's going to handle all that if he were to take it over.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of lean on the side of freedom of speech and where do you draw the line, and moderating influencing, which trickles down to politics and all sorts of different stuff. So,
right. Yep.
I think that treating people fairly across the board is important to me personally.
Yeah.
And if that's what he stands for, great. I know that a lot of people kind of are like, assuming and looking into things a little bit deeper and what it could affect totally. But I don't know. I'm a fan personally. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I put a poll out there, John, on Twitter, because I figured that probably hadn't been done yet. And turns out, should Twitter shareholders sell to Elon Musk $43 billion? 53.6% said yes, 42.9% said no, and 3.6% said, I don't know.
gotta be candid with you and transparent. I stopped using Twitter regularly a couple years ago just because of the points you raised earlier. It's just a toxic place with a lot of trolls, and I find my information elsewhere. But I think it's pretty cool. It's shaking things up a little bit and making people think. So we'll see what happens. I don't know Elon personally. You might, but
I met him once.
Did you really?
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Downtown Las Vegas.
How was that interaction?
Great. No, he's super nice. So I think the big thing, and his brother plays guitar and plays amazing Johnny Cash songs. So that's another whole nother fun story of downtown Vegas. But so that's his brother Kimball. But either way, it's been, his brother actually started a media company a while back, a recommendations company. So it's not like he hasn't dabbled in this space, and I think Elon is as well. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll see what happens with the over the weekend or maybe into next week, probably, as the board decides what to do next, and see if they take their offer.
It seems like he has other priorities, right? With space and some of these other things. To me, it almost seems like I hate to say it this way because I have no bearing on this whatsoever or reason to believe it. It almost seems like it's a joke to him, right? Like, well, I'm rich enough and I think this is something that would be cool and fun to do. And I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit more light on it and don't maybe see it as sinister as other people do. Because I know that, we know about his space things that he's doing there with all that, the SpaceX, et cetera. So anyway,
one thing that came to mind, because I come up with these random thoughts when I'm either swimming or running, when I can't have any devices, which is what happened with this one. It's I was like, well, maybe it's because if he goes to space and with SpaceX and they find alien life, he wants to report it and not be in any way impeded from doing so. The whole freedom of speech thing. That was my thought. I don't know if any of that's true. There's probably conspiracy theorists coming up with that right now, and I'm saying that's probably not true. I don't know, but I thought it was kind of a funny thing to come up with. So I wanted to share it.
I like it. That's the reason I'm supporting it.
Yeah, right. You heard it here first. No, don't repeat that. Do not repeat that. That's not true. So anyway, all right, let's move along here. The other space that's been not the space we're going up in space, but the other space that's been kind of volatile, but also growing, and you're hearing a lot of things or talk about lately is the Web3 space and all the new things happening on the internet. A lot of folks are jumping in with NFTs and DAOs and all these different new concepts. And today I wanted to focus on some of the NFT work that's happening because it peaked. We talked about this like a year ago. I launched an NFT. I minted an NFT of a unicorn just to see what it would do. And remember there's a whole gas thing. It cost me a couple $100 to get a drawing of a unicorn that I drew on the internet, and just to see what would happen and what it would be like. And not a whole lot's changed in my life. I'm still trying to sell my unicorn. It's not an NFT artist over here, but you're finding a lot of NFT artists being super successful, and some of which are like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which they were kind of have made a lot of money in a very short amount of time selling little ape faces and as your profile pictures. And Doodles is another one, and CryptoPunks was kind of the original kind of big ones. And now you're seeing a lot more projects, a lot more women-led projects, a lot of other projects like Moonbirds and VeeFriends, which is Gary V's thing. He created a whole thing with his drawings and turned it into a community. But the more underlying thing is it's all about community, and then they figure out, you sell your NFTs and then they figure out what to do. It's kind of what I'm seeing as the playbook. Some may already know what they want to do before they start selling them, some don't. And anyway, you're seeing these NFTs that pop up in different ways, and people are using them for generating funds. So I mentioned that some are doing it not having a plan. Some are doing it with a plan. One of which that just popped up on my radar was NFTs for mining meteors. There's this company I found an article about that was literally trying to launch an NFT, drop it, and then mine meteors. So that makes sense. So I guess my thought is it's disruptive and potentially could be the next way that startups raise funds. Boom, I said it. That could be a disruptor for, it's the crowdfunding, right? It's this crowdfunding element without having to go through some of these other crowdfunding applications or places. You just put out an NFT collection, build a community, and then go build your thing. So
yeah, it's a nice fundraising mechanism. Let's call it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so that's what they're doing to do mine meters. I'm sure there's other startups doing it that I don't even know about. If you are a startup and you are doing it, I'd love to hear about it. Just send us an email again at somewhatfrank@est.us, and we'll try to incorporate that in the next program, or get back to you with some questions, obviously. And then, I even thought of like, well, what else could use this? And I should mention, I went to South by Southwest, and it was just everywhere. Like, man, Web3 was like all over the place. NFTs were all over. People were dropping things for going to an event. You'd get a drop just for going to an event. And like they drop you an NFT that they just minted that you went to this thing. It's almost like you're collecting badges, like on Foursquare or whatever. So it's an interesting time. Things are moving super fast. People are still figuring stuff out. But I've got a prediction that within the next cycle here, next year or two, maybe even this year, you're going to see politicians are going to use NFTs to raise funds for their campaign. So I think that's coming if it hasn't already.
Definitely. It's exciting space. I know you're very bullish about it, and I'm excited to see what happens. I know that I think some of it's a little bit of a fad, but I do believe the technology behind it is here to stay. And we're kind of, like you said, it's finding its own path right now. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of interesting, there's a trend out there with work-life culture trend that popped up around the pandemic a couple years ago, and we probably talked about it a little bit without even calling it this. But there's this two-shift work day, which more or less means that back in 2020, when we all had to like work from home, and kiddos had to come home, and everyone we were trying to just juggle like crazy to get stuff done. You'd work the 9 to 5, you'd have a little family time, and then you'd work the 9 to midnight, basically. Those two shifts, and that actually has stuck. And I mean, a lot of startup founders, that's what they do anyway, or a lot of people in general that are hustling on to get their thing going are doing that anyway. But we're finding more of that sticking. And there was an interesting article in the Atlantic about it, and I wanted to share that. And is it the new normal or not? I don't know, but definitely not sustainable. So if you are doing this, make sure you take breaks and don't do it all the time.
Definitely. Yeah, we need to do something about it because it's burning at both ends. I know that my regular routine is when I wake up in the middle of the night, the first thing I do is check Slack to see if anything's come in, and my email I'm emailing and slacking people at whatever, 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. And it's just,
right.
Your body does feel it. Like you physiologically feel different. So it has to be having some sort of a effect.
Yeah. I mean, we're all connected all the time, right? 24/7. Right. So the key is just making sure you turn off sometimes. And that's, if you can make that a cultural thing internally, that's important.
Right.
All right. Moving on. Because I know we want to keep this tight. That's part of our new regime here with this Somewhat Frank podcast. Rise of the Rest has a tour. It has a fund. And now it has a new book. Mr. Steve Case was the founder of AOL, and he's got Revolution now. It's an investment fund. He actually just wrote a book called The Rise of the Rest, and it's coming out soon. So we're going to drop that in the show notes. But the reason I wanted to include it is I've been on those tours with Steve and some of his other colleagues like Anna Mason, and been through a lot of these cities. So I'm really interested in seeing what's in the book as he kind of shines light on these different rising communities, which is very similar to our mantra and what we've been doing for 15 years with previously Tech Cocktail / Techco, and then Established, and now Startup of the Year, as we try to find companies and people that are really moving, shaking and moving in their local area and getting it going. So anyway, and also we just did an interview with Anna Mason from Rise of the Rest Fund. So I wanted to share that. That's from our Startup of the Year podcast. So if you're interested in podcasts, you can go check that out as well. And I wanted to leave you all with is there's a new tool out there from AngelList, kind of similar in line with Rise of the Rest. It's for safes. So anybody raising, past 2013, Y Combinator dropped the safe, simple agreement for future equity. And so now there's a new tool by AngelList called Safe.new, and you can use it if you're a startup and you're trying to set up your own safe for early stage investing. So it's interesting. New tool. Check it out. And then one bonus, Johnny, because I know we like bonuses. I've been watching one thing, and I know we used to have this as a key feature, but I don't know if you've watched this or not. But 1883, I watched all Yellowstone, and then I watched 1883 on Paramount Plus, and I have to say, I am super thankful for medical. Modern medicine has changed our lives and will continue to do so. And thank goodness we didn't live in 1883. It is an interesting series about the Oregon Trail, but it's super brutal and super sad. And anyway, it's worth at least a look if you like those types of things. But oh man, if you don't have the heart, don't watch it.
I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, and it's on my queue, and I will be listening to it probably starting next week.
but you'll be tense the whole time. So just be ready knowing that.
All right.
And that's not how you want to end. That's not how you want to end your day, but just definitely think about it. And for all those listening, thanks so much for being here today. We're back with Somewhat Frank. I'm Frank Gruber. I'm here with Johnny Good Times Guidos, and we'll be trying to do this more consistently, as I mentioned at the top. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to another Somewhat Frank podcast episode. Be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to celebrate your wins, small and large, with gratitude. It will make your journey more enjoyable. We'll be back soon with another episode.